The Certainty Principle by Dave Light. Chapter 14, TCP, Limiting Choices. Section 14.3, Losing Myself. The experience of losing oneself often results when the environment is so foreign or the interaction is so intense that the enthrallment with self-definition, identity, surrenders to a larger and deeper experience. Entering an ancient and magnificent cathedral can leave me so awestruck that the sense of individual identity is lost in an expansive sense of wonder and overwhelming beauty and history of the place. Similarly, hearing a live orchestra play Beethoven's Sixth Symphony carries my experience of the moment into a larger domain that includes the composer himself and the generations moved by the sheer beauty of the composition. Though not religiously inclined, I once stood for hours before the original Bernardetto Luini's Madonna and Child, tears streaming down my face. It seemed I'd surrendered to the centuries of those before me who also felt the passion captured forever by the artist who so lovingly created it. If you're not familiar with that piece, it's a Renaissance piece created in the 15th century. Most anyone visiting Yosemite National Park for the first time is so moved by the grandeur of the place as to be struck speechless. It really is amazing to see it for the first time. In its own way, a natural spiritual experience. Such departures from identity into an intense reality experience are important touchstones to the freedom of feeling completely embedded in the manifesting moment. The smallness of being the same with all material things. Why is such an experience important in TCP? For the same reason that walks in nature are important. Walks in nature are important. In these moot moments, we are imbued with the reality of being part of something much larger. In our day-to-day, identity-filled lives, it is easy to become enthralled with ourselves as the center of the universe. But this is not reality. Physically, we are made up of the same fundamental particles as everything spinning around us. As such, in a physical sense, it is impossible for me to separate myself from the physics of the reality within which I exist. In the base reality, as we know it to be, we are absolutely the same as the material world within which we exist. Such a fact is not a revelation to anyone who's passed high school physics, but my brain creates such habitude of individuality that it becomes nearly impossible to experience myself as part of the natural whole. I am, in effect, everywhere, and as such, the absurdity of an individual identity becomes very apparent. It is the simple examination of the basic science of reality, at least reality as we perceive it through our five senses. Section 14.4, Manifesting My Mandate. I love that picture. No one gets out without a mandate. I either choose to accept it and act purposefully to achieve it, or allow it to die of neglect, a sure path to regret. The certainty principle forces me to accept that my personal domain of accountability is inescapable. I must reconcile the one thing that makes me worthy of being a human being. It is worth pretending that accountability to my mandate is eternal due to the certainty and confidence that such a commitment delivers. What I mean by that is really the commitment to a mandate is its own reward. And as with the quote, a fool in pursuit of his folly becomes wise, you don't have to get it right the first time. You will eventually get it right if you don't let up. If you just stick to it. Dogged determination, tenacity. Just as Pascal's dilemma led the mathematician to the conclusion that he had no choice but full abidance to his faith, TCP leads me to the conclusion that I must abide to my mandate. Identity addiction intoxicates me, and like a junkie, identity obscures purpose. To discover the mandate that drives my purpose, I must recognize identity for the game it is. I must stop my brain from wasting its time, focusing instead on the duty of my doing, or the doing of my duty. Identity is merely a clown costume I have assembled over the years to give my brain meaning, a fantasy at best. All the while, my true meaning is only solving the problems and completing the tasks in faithful service to the reason I am on the planet to begin with. And even if you don't believe in fate and that kind of stuff, it doesn't matter. That's the great thing about TCP. Like, mandate is its own reward. And belief in mandate and committed to mandate is its own reward. My mandate moves me, otherwise I am dead. But how do I find it? Stripping away the artificial adornments of identity eventually reveals my reality of purpose. Humility eventually manifests meaning. A mandate that requires an individual to dress as a clown exhibits a persona that appears frivolous, even deprecating to the outside world. But to excel at such work requires an all-in commitment to the important purpose of generating laughter. Failing to discover my mandate only means I will be constantly humiliated until my identity is sufficiently devolved that my brain can finally recognize mandate when it sees it. 14.5. Programming certainty. The key to programming certainty is learning how to program the brain. Programming my brain is a two-part process. Freeing up memory and bandwidth needs to be free. Then installing a fresh image of my brain's operating system. Image is a programming term referring to the serialized code of a clean, uncorrupted version of the operating system. Similarly, in TCP terms, the TCP image is a fresh copy of instructions that direct my brain to operate free of the corrupting effects of outcome and identity dependence. But before I can install certainty, I need to learn how to delete from my brain the residue of synthetic stories and poison pictures that consume my capacity to think and act efficiently, effectively, and independently. My brain will manifest what matters to it and erase what doesn't. My first step is learn to erase. In brain mechanics, erasing is accomplished by limiting the kind of content my brain is permitting to clock in. If I consistently deny my brain the time needed to process thoughts unaligned with mandate, I will soon dismiss such thinking altogether. If I keep time-starving my toxic thinking, it will soon pass away. Quote, "The best thing you can do for death is to ride off from it." Unquote. Larry McMurthy, Lonesome Doves, 1985. Just ride away from the bad stuff. The brain is plastic. It adapts to what is practiced. Learning to starve uncertainty takes time, but the payoff is big. Liberation from distractions, confidence achieving what is important. Confidence is performed by replacing the dead code with certainty principle affirmation. Forever my horizons, manifest my mandates, account for my incomes, surrender my outcomes, and depose my identity.